Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or Apec Summit this year in Bangkok is unique in many ways. Apec leaders are meeting at a crucial hour when the world is wrestling with numerous challenges and some of the heavyweight member countries don't see eye to eye on many of the issues. Can this meeting offer a breakthrough to ease geopolitical tensions or help speed up the post-COVID-19 economic recovery or take constructive steps to deal with grim environmental challenges? Or will it be the same old talk shop? Today, as part of our special interview series in the countdown to the Apec Summit, we talked to Mrs. Sarah Taylor, Canada's ambassador to Thailand. Let's hear from the ambassador of Canada's perspective on how Canada plans to contribute to this meeting in terms of peace and stability, promoting bilateral relations, and an economic framework on the Apec stage. First of all, Ambassador, thank you for having me here today. And from today until 14th of November, which is going to be Apec, it's less than a month. I would like to ask you, what are the preparations from your side as a representative of your country and also for Canada as a member of Apec as well?
Thank you very much for coming and joining me here today. APEC is very important for Canada. We, like Thailand, are a founder member of APEC. And the APEC region, the Asia-Pacific region, is very important not only in the global economy, but for us as well, for trade. So it's about 60% of world GDP, and most of our biggest trading partners, bilateral trading partners for Canada, are in the APEC group. So again, very important for us. So in terms of preparations, we have been taking part in all of the ministerial meetings that have led up to the summit that's coming next month, as you mentioned. The most recent being the finance ministers meeting, a very important part of the preparation, but also other meetings before that of trade ministers, in tourism, in forestry, and so on. Because we know a lot of that very concrete practical work around different aspects of trade and economic cooperation are really sort of the backbone of APEC. So we want to try and take part in all of that preparatory work. And obviously we're working towards preparing for a high-level delegation to come for the summit. Looking forward to that very much. It's a lot of work to prepare, but I think very important because after all, because of the COVID pandemic, there has not been an in-person meeting of Asia-Pacific leaders on this scale in over 2 years. So this is going to be a very important opportunity for that high-level engagement, and we hope to give some impetus to addressing some of the big economic challenges that are facing the region and the world.
Can you please tell us a little bit about what are the main topics of the discussions that's going to be for Canada at this year's APEC?
Sure. So from our perspective, I would say there are really 3 main baskets of issues, if you like. So the first is there's a formal APEC process, and we know that Thailand as host is working towards a document termed the Bangkok Goals, which would build on some of the existing documents that were agreed in previous APEC summits. So we're very supportive of the Bangkok Goals and the work towards that. It's another step in the process for APEC of defining a long-term vision for the region and then working towards that. And that's a vision that includes, for example, restarting a discussion around a free trade area of Asia Pacific. So that's the first basket. The second basket is something that Thailand as host has raised as a theme, BCG,
balance,
circular green, and we can talk in more detail about that, but just to say that's something that Canada is also very supportive of, and we see that as a crucial part of the post-pandemic recovery, that any recovery has to be a sustainable recovery, and the BCG agenda is a way towards that. So that's our second big piece. So the third basket is around the economic challenges that arise at the moment because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So that's had an impact on world food supplies and prices, on world energy supplies and prices, and that's driving inflation and many other economic challenges. And so we see that not only as one of the big economic challenges that is impeding recovery, but also, to be frank, it's one that arises out of the actions of an APEC member. So we do think it is very important to address it in the context of the APEC Summit.
Right, so as you just mentioned before, and I would like to raise this as Thailand has themed the summit Open, Connect, and Balance. As a member of Apex also, how will Canada contribute towards this Open, Connect, and Balance and contribute towards peace and stability as well?
Sure. So we like very much that theme, the Open, Connect, Balance theme, and there are different ways in which Canada is contributing to that. Just before I speak to the Canadian contribution, I would go back to what I was mentioning earlier, which is the impact of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, because we feel that goes very much against all of those themes, that the effect of this war has been to close down trade, to reduce openness, to damage the environment. So it's going exactly in the wrong direction for the Open, Connect, Balance objectives. In terms of what Canada can do, so on the open front, as I mentioned, we're glad to see Thailand reopening a discussion on a free trade area of Asia Pacific. That's a longer term goal, but we think it's an important conversation to have because we, like Thailand, are very much supporters of free trade. And in the meantime, we're working on two other fronts. So we're a member of CPTPP and looking to expand it. And also Canada and ASEAN just launched negotiations for a Canada-ASEAN free trade agreement. So we're very excited about that, and we feel that as that moves forward, that will be another building block for free trade in the Asia-Pacific region. So that's the open part. Connect, I'd mention maybe just two quick things. One is, I know that there's a sort of set of technical goals within APEC around improving movement of peoples, recognizing different countries' vaccination certificates, things like that. So we're working very hard on that. But just in the Canada-Thailand context, also really pleased to see that starting in December, there will be a new flight, a direct flight between Vancouver and Bangkok. That will be the only direct flight between North America and Bangkok. So very excited about that. And I feel like that's really part of us contributing to connecting up one another. So that's great. And balance, of course, a lot of that is around sustainability and the BCG model, as we mentioned earlier. So we're very supportive of that. Again, working in the APEC context around supporting some of the goals for a green recovery and also a fair recovery. So recognizing that COVID affected different people differently, very important that when we build back, that we think about issues like whether women or minority groups or other groups have been more affected and need more assistance as we build back. So those are, I'd say, some of the things where Canada's working hard to contribute to this meeting, to that set of goals.
But as we know that Russia is also a member of APEC as well, and I would like to address previously at a meeting of APEC trade ministers in May in Bangkok, there was a coordinated walkout by the member like Canada, US, Japan, and other members as well. Do you see the possibility of the Russian invasion casting a shadow over this summit as well?
I guess I would say just a few things on that. First of all, really my congratulations to Thailand. It has been a very difficult as well as a very important year to host APEC. And I think that Thailand has done really a remarkable job on trying to bring together the APEC member economies for a conversation that we really need to have. We need to talk about recovery, but in a very difficult political context. And as we were discussing earlier, that in many of the ministerial meetings, it has not been possible to reach a consensus statement. There have been chair statements only. So again, I congratulate Thailand on an effort on that front. For the summit itself, we don't yet know exactly who will be attending and the details of some of the details of the meeting. So I can't predict exactly how it will unfold. But I would say two things. One is just to reiterate what I said before, that I do think Russia's invasion of Ukraine belongs on the APEC agenda because it involves an APEC member, and especially because it's not just a political event. It is very much an economic one with huge economic impact.
Right.
And we saw that, for example, at last week's finance ministers meeting. We heard from various bodies, from IMF, World Bank, ADB, their predictions for the global economy and global growth in 2023, and they're actually quite gloomy. So this is something we really need to seize on. And the final thing I'd say, which would hold for APEC, but for any multilateral setting, is part of the goal of those organizations and those discussions is to get people together when they disagree. It's easy to have nice meetings when we all agree, but diplomacy is much more important, and cooperation and collaboration when we don't agree. So for me, even if it makes the meeting a little more uncomfortable, it actually means that the outcomes of that meeting are really crucial. So again, I go back to just saying, congratulations to Thailand for being the setting in which we can have that important discussion.
Ambassador, since you're a woman, and what you just say to me right now is just very strong points, point of view. I would like to ask you what will be your role in participating in the upcoming APEC? I've heard that you're going to participate in terms of women's role, the importance of women's role in the society and around the world as well, right?
Yeah. So, of course, as ambassador, my biggest role for the Apec Summit is supporting my Prime Minister and ministers, whoever comes to the summit. I'm there to support them, to welcome them to Thailand, to make sure they have everything they need. So I think for me and other ambassadors, we play a role that's a little bit behind the scenes because, of course, it's our leaders who take our front and center.
Right.
But I would say in terms of women's role and women's contribution, that's something that is very important to Canada. It's actually a key part of our foreign policy. We have a feminist foreign policy. And in that context, we do a lot of work around, for example, gender and trade. And supporting women entrepreneurs, supporting women-led small and medium-sized enterprises around the world and also in this region. And our Minister of International Trade, who is invited to the summit as well, because there's a ministerial component, is also a huge champion of that issue. So I'm hoping very much that we will be able to support her and to support also some of the women business people who come for the ABAC, the Business Advisory Council portion.
Right, in parallel of the APEC meeting.
I think there's sort of two parts to that work, and I've experienced it a bit myself. Before I came to Thailand, in our foreign ministry, I was what was called our champion for women. And for me, that there are two parts to advancing and empowering women. One is having women in a leadership role. So, for example, having young entrepreneurs see some of the senior women entrepreneurs who will be in the ABAC meetings and have that inspire them to think, oh, I can do that too. I can aspire to those sort of leadership positions. So there's that part. And then there's a part that's more broadly about just empowering and assisting women at all levels to participate in the economy and to participate in that sort of sustainable, fair growth and rebuilding post-COVID. So just maybe one example on that, Canada supports a development project in this region where we help support women who lead micro and small enterprises on financial and digital literacy. And access to financing and access to tools that will help them grow their businesses. So it's that sort of very practical thing that we try and do to make sure that we are supporting not just the women leaders, but also women at the grassroots, because they will be a key part of economic growth and recovery.
For APEC this year, what is Canada expecting from Thailand? What will be, let's say, the future trade cooperations? So obviously we're very glad that Thailand is hosting APEC and happy to cooperate with Thailand in an APEC context. But also bilaterally, just between Canada and Thailand as well. So maybe I can say a little bit about that, because that's very important to me as ambassador. So I think we have a very strong, very friendly relationship.
We just last year celebrated our 60th anniversary of bilateral relations, so
very long.
Significant anniversary. And also last year, as it happens, we had the highest level of trade between Canada and Thailand ever. So I was very pleased at that, but I think there's still scope to do more, both between Canada and Thailand and also with the region as a whole as well. And that can be through APEC, also through ASEAN. And this year, Canada's a dialogue partner of ASEAN, and this year we celebrate the 45th anniversary of that dialogue. So we have long-standing relations with all the ASEAN countries, including with Thailand, that go back a long way, a long history of support and cooperation, and that's been through a whole range of different areas, economic, but also areas like peace and security, like education, and like people-to-people connections. And maybe if I can end on that, because I think ultimately that's in a way the most important thing is when we have people who go back and forth and get to know one another's countries. So again, very excited that we're going to have a direct flight. I hope that will encourage
I am excited too.
many more Thai people to go to Canada on holiday or to study. That it'll be that much easier to go. And similarly, I'm hoping it will bring Canadians here and bring back, as again part of that sustainable recovery, bring back tourists, but maybe in a little bit of a new, more sustainable approach. And not just tourists. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with the Education Ministry, which is supposed to be activated next year and which will bring young Canadians to teach English in schools around Thailand.
Oh, wow.
So very excited about that as well, to introduce a whole generation of young Canadians to Thailand.
And exchanging culture as well. That's very exciting.
Exactly. So lots of exciting developments.
My last question is Justin Trudeau coming?
Okay. I can't officially tell you that because
I know
his office gets to announce that, not me. What I can say is I hope very much that he's coming.
Yes.
I think it would be wonderful. As I've said, we have a strong relationship. I think it would be even stronger if the Prime Minister comes. So I'm very much hoping that he will, and one or more ministers as well, so that we will have a big Canadian delegation here and a strong presence. Partly, of course, as I mentioned, because APEC is such an important organization for us, and we really want to be part of that discussion amongst member economies at this crucial moment for the global economy, but also for the Canada-Thailand relationship. So
we hope.
We hope, and it's again, it's what every ambassador hopes for, is to see their own prime minister and the host country's prime minister shaking hands. You know, that's always a good moment for us.
We hope to see him too, and especially this year is quite challenging year for many people as well.
Yeah, no, indeed. And again, we recognize that it has been, I think it's economically, it's been tough. It's still tough for everyone in the region. So really important to have those sort of personal face-to-face connections and those discussions about how do we move things forward and how do we build back.
And as you mentioned, the most important thing is how to make the disagreement become, them to sit together and agree on certain things too. And that's a hard job. Well, for today, thank you very much for having me here, Ambassador. Thank you very much ค่ะ ขอบคุณมากค่ะ
ไม่เป็นไร Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.